Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's your boy, D Jizzle. We're back with another OTP off the Blitz Inc. podcast episode tonight. And this right here is going to be one of the ones. Trust me. If you are missing this episode tonight, you sleep. You sleep. I don't know what to tell you. Like, man, this guest right here is about to put y'all on so much game tonight. Like, it doesn't even make sense, bro. It don't. But you know, I'm gonna let y'all see that for y'all, find out for yourselves, man. Definitely, he is definitely one of those ones. Can't wait to bring out the guest. But before we do that, I gotta bring out my crew, man. The best crew ever. My crew, they making strides in the reptile community right now. They doing other shows, they branching out, you know what I'm saying, hitting the great outdoors and such, pun intended. Uh, Shout out to the Whiskey Bomb Network. You know, uh, Definitely. I see some people backstage now. She look like she got it together. We got a surprise guest. We ain't seen her in like 2 weeks, so. But I know y'all definitely put prayers up for her, so I'm gonna bring her out first, actually, because we ain't seen her in forever. So coming to the stage, I gotta bring my H Boom Coon out, the menace to her side of herself. One of the I want to call it like the up and coming in the game right now. Look, she back there like she back there like man. Y'all welcome to the stage, none other than Miss Banner herself. What up, sis? How you doing? Let me fix this up. What's up? What's
Fine.
good?
How are you?
I'm alright. Ain't seen you in a month for some Sundays.
All right. Things are looking up, so that's good.
Yeah, for sure, man. Definitely had the folks put some prayers up for you last week. We definitely appreciate you tapping in with us tonight. I know things can be a little rough, but we're gonna keep on treasuring.
Appreciate it.
Keep on praying, man, for sure. So let's bring out these other two knuckleheads. You know what I'm saying? They backstage. I know they excited for this episode too, because you already know I'm gonna bring out Brian last, because this has been his. If he was gonna have one guest to come on the show, this was gonna be his guest. So before we bring Brian out, we're gonna bring out Mr. No Brown. Let him tell it. No Brown himself. R.I.P. to Niglet. You know what I'm saying? We Niglet is gone, unfortunately. But I'm pretty sure he'll have another to replace him soon. I mean, her, it, him. I don't know. He'll have another one to replace it soon. Welcome to the stage, Brandon of P&P, Peace and Pets. If you don't know who that is, what up, B?
Man, what up, bro?
What up? No, give me that same energy I had on the Great Outdoors yesterday. You talk about sticks now, man, I got a horse and don't know how to act.
Hey,
now
man,
listen. He feel like he outside.
Like I said, man, R.I.P. Niglet. You just brought it up. I wasn't trying to talk about it at all.
Nah, you should have made that post. I'm like, bro, we just gonna skip past. Nigga, we didn't even give it no ceremony. We don't, you know what I'm saying? We didn't even put no moments up there. You lucky I ain't got no.
We gotta give it a moment of silence.
I gave it a couple weeks of silence. I ain't talking about it.
We're gonna have to give it.
You ain't talking about it for a couple weeks, man. That thing hurt. I ain't gonna hold you.
I'm sure. How your family taking it? Because I know y'all was a little attached to it.
Man, they kept moving, bro. They kept moving.
Thank you.
The younger ones, they was like my daughter and my youngest son. They was like, what happened to? They called him Draco. I ain't let them call it negative. Whatever. So he was like, "Where's Draco?" And I was like, "She out back." She out back. We went out back, and they was like, "Where's Draco?"
Where's Draco?
Let him know. So yeah.
But
pull a drink out for the homie Niglet.
I definitely gotta pull one out for Niglet, man. But so without further ado, let's bring up this guy. This guy has been talking about this since damn near January. He's been waiting on this episode.
Shoot, longer than that.
Yeah, longer than that for real. He definitely pumped about this episode. He might be leading the show tonight, to be honest. He got that many questions. Like, he got his glasses on in the back. He was looking real studious and real ready to lead a class tonight. No ignorance.
About to drop big words.
Exactly. No sophistication. All sophistication, no ignorance. Shout out to Wiz. Shout out to the Wiz tank. But let's go ahead and bring him to the stage, Mr. Heathen Hatchery himself. Ryan, what it do?
What's up, man?
Let me go put my glasses on real quick.
Yeah, I am excited about this episode. You kidding me?
Man. I'm definitely excited.
Kidding me? Whoever talks about this?
Man,
that's true. This episode's gonna be a banger, bro. It's definitely gonna be a very informative episode. Like, it just from the pictures that we just saw alone, bro, it's gonna be crazy. Like, it's gonna be so many questions that just pop in.
I've watched like one video about maternal incubation ever. Like, YouTube barely has this shit. So I'm excited to hear about it.
That's
great. Sophisticated, Ross. I like that. So before we get into that, man, let's pay these bills real quick. Shout out to the sponsors of the show. So I'm gonna let y'all check that out. Y'all make sure y'all go ahead and get comfortable. You know what I'm saying? Grab your drinks, because it's gonna be a good, informative episode. You're not gonna want to miss one piece
hit
of
that like button too, if you haven't.
Yeah, and please hit that like button. You know what I'm saying? Share it out. Bring some more people in, man, to the family, man, so we can share the knowledge, bro. Don't gatekeep, as Elijah would call it. Don't be a gatekeeper. You did. But I'm gonna go ahead and hit this commercial. Huh? Okay, I'm gonna hit this commercial. We'll be back. Don't go too far. Shout out to Grey Rider Reptiles, one of the leading share testing brands in this hobby, as well as breeders of the ball python community. They have numerous tests ranging from the yellow belly morph to morphs like Sunset and are growing every day. If you're wanting to find out the genetics of your ball python, just send it in to Grey Rider Reptiles and they'll take care of you. Their website is www.sharetesting.com. Let them know that I sent you. Hey man, shout out to the unofficial sponsor of the channel, K Joseph. Rising B-list celebrity in this hobby, KG got that all-around great knowledge, and he's also a great guy. If y'all aren't in the Patreon, it's a problem. And as always, it ain't a project unless you put a bomb in it. Oh yeah, and make sure you send the link. Shout out to BNS Reptilia, distributor of coconut substrate, The Chipper, and their premium coconut substrate, Cocoa to Go. BNS prides themselves on immaculate customer service and always putting their customers first. You can reach BNS Reptilia on Instagram for your substrate needs. Tell them that I referred you. And once again, thank you for being a sponsor, BNS. We appreciate you.
What? If you playing a game, what is that?
I was feeling real festive.
You know what I'm talking about? I'm a slave for you.
Bro, every time I see Tim, bro, that between the festive situation, Tim and prophecy, oh my God! Every time, bro, it never gets old for me for some reason.
It just puts you in the right mood for the show, man.
Yes, bro. It just puts me there every time. But let's go ahead and say hey to our family, man, to the crew. You know what I'm saying? It's always tapping in with us every week. And those
I just want to say, glad you're back, bestie.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Give me the heart. Give me the heart. There it is.
There it is.
Oh snap! They wasn't doing a good job like you do, man. When it comes to the comments, I don't know what they got going on.
Okay.
What's good, Mark? Appreciate you for tapping in. Mark was first today, y'all. Mark was ready to hear about maternal incubation.
Yeah.
Raj, what up? Appreciate you for tapping in, brother. Loyal supporter. Brandon double dipping.
What up? What up?
Brian double dipping. Brian, I really like your logo.
Appreciate that.
A wild Shauna has appeared. I haven't made it yet. I'm gonna make it though. I gotta get that together. What's good, Ash? Ash, check your DM, bro. Check your DM. I sent you the link. Get in on this combo.
What's good, bro?
Pat,
what's up, man?
What else we got? If y'all ain't check out Pat new video, Demon, y'all gotta check that out on his YouTube, man. Dope song, dope concept, dope message.
Yo.
It's good, John.
What up, bro? Where the fuck you been?
I know John, you been hiding. You been hiding. I wonder where you been at. Don Dizzler, No Pause Poppy, Purple Passion, what it do? Appreciate you for tapping in for
No Pause Poppy.
No Pause Poppy, what it do?
Bro got more names than Clash's Clay, man.
I'm trying to tell you what it do. Shout out to the Burn King himself. I'm still waiting on that. Bro? Still waiting on that. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Appreciate you. Yeah. What it do, Prince Elias? What it do? Appreciate you for tapping in.
What's good, bro?
Y'all make sure y'all check out Prince Elias's vlogs, man. Definitely got some dope vlogs out right now, for real, for real. Especially, I love those random rants that Elias be giving live. Like rant was that was it for me. I love that one. That was dope. Yes, sir. He's excited. So excited. So excited. Rest RIP to Niglets. If y'all don't know who Niglet is, Niglet is Brandon's chicken that he used to have. It was what kind of chicken was it again?
I think it was a Somali cross.
Yeah, that's the all black chicken. If y'all don't know what that is, those of y'all that might be tapping in,
bro.
Appreciate you for tapping in, man. I think it's been Chung name wrong by accident. That was a big accident. Typo. What else we got? I know some folks might be tapping in a little late. You know, the time change messed everybody up.
What up, DJ?
What up, Fred? Appreciate you for tapping in, brother. Yeah, man. Fred's definitely a supporter too. Hey, Fred, if you still want some DNX Head Pod stuff, I know it ain't a visual, but you know, it is what it is.
I think
what it do? What it do? What it do? Remember? That's a bit. I think everybody else gonna still tap in for right now. That's cool. Appreciate y'all family for always tapping in and showing y'all support. And as always, if you are not a part of my channel, man, go ahead and join that channel. What y'all doing? Y'all slacking. Definitely got some giveaways, some clutch giveaways, clutch picks, and such coming up as I drop these or as these females in my racks drop these eggs. I will be having like some, you know, depending. You got to be a part of the top tier though. So, you know what I'm saying? And at least prior to the eggs being dropped, you got to at least be a part of the top tier. It's not expensive at all. You know what I'm saying? It just just look at it, you showing support. Use it as a tax write-off. Shit. Hell if I know. But, you know what I'm saying? Just show love, man. I appreciate those. And y'all keep me going. So I appreciate y'all. And it just helps keep the lights on over here, especially StreamYard ain't cheap. None of this shit that we do is cheap, to be honest. So I definitely appreciate that, man, for sure. But before we bring the guest out, we got one more major announcement. Man, you got a little fuzzy up there, sis. One more major announcement, and I need y'all to definitely pay attention to this one, all right? Y'all don't pay attention to no other commercial. Y'all got to pay attention to this one. It is. We'll be back.
It's called EPIC, the Exotic Pet Industry Conference, and it's free to register at epic.live. Epic is over 20 special guests across 16 sessions covering industry trends, marketing, branding, podcasting, and YouTube. Epic is for pet keepers and breeders. It's for gecko and invert lovers. It's for snake and spider lovers. Epic is for anyone who enjoys these amazing animals. Did I mention it's free? Register now at epic.live.
Yes, sir. And with that, we are back with the main man of the evening. How are you doing, Mr. Eric Chung?
I'm doing well. How are you guys? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We can.
Yes, we can. Absolutely.
We are definitely honored and definitely thankful that you are here tonight. Definitely want to pick your brain, man, on this topic at hand, because a lot of people feel like it's, it can't be done at times, but we about to prove them wrong tonight. We about to put it all out on the table tonight. So, for those that might be new to the channel or those that might be new to you, go ahead and let us know who you are, how long you've been doing this. Just in case they don't know, or just the new people that might be tapping in, so they can kind of get to know who you are and such.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm 49 years old. I've been doing this since I was a youngster. I was born and raised in Miami, Florida. And when we were little kids, we'd go around the neighborhood and flip the neighbors' rocks over and catch the ringneck snakes that were underneath it. And, catch the red rat snake or corn snake, whatever you want to call it. Down here, we used to call them red rat snakes. And so, find the occasional black racer, get bitten up nice and good, and just fooling around with lizards, catching brown and nulls with a little noose. Like when I was in lower school, one of my classmates was like, "Oh, look, if you take some dental floss and a stick, you can catch these lizards with a noose." And it's like, "Oh, cool, I've got those all over my house." And just fooling around with lizards as a kid. And as I got older, got more interested, would, nag my mom to take me to the local reptile shops, look at all the crazy animals they had. I remember the first big reptile shop that I went to was down in South Dade County, South Miami. Well, not South Miami. It's more like a Perrine area, but a place called Natural Selections that was owned by a well-known Florida herpetologist named Joe Wazalewski. And I remember when I first walked in, I would see monkey tail skinks. And at the time, they were a dime a dozen. They'd come in for super cheap. And, years later, they would, be $1,000 each or whatever they are nowadays. But I remember, seeing some of the locally caught rat snakes and corn snakes or, whatnot. And, oh, yeah, I'll pick one up. And so, I just got more and more into it. At the local library, I pretty much checked out every single book that they had that was related to reptiles and amphibians, and just, absorbed it all. And, I was really interested in it at that age, and started getting into adulthood, had a job where I could make, I made some extra income that, I could spend on stuff, and ended up amassing a pretty big reptile collection. And at the time, it was like, some of this, some of that. I was primarily focused on breeding at the time. So, I'd have a group of leopard geckos, a group of fat tail geckos, a group of green basilisks, a group of tegus, a group of California king snakes, and, whatever it was, I had a bunch of different stuff.
That's dope. That's dope.
And had decent success. At the time, I met kind of basically my first mentor in the reptile community, a guy named Ron St. Pierre. I was still in high school at the time. And back then, we would advertise in the Bargain Trader. I don't know if it's even still around, but maybe it's still around for automobiles. But back then, if you had reptiles to sell or animals to sell, put in the bargain trader. The ad costs $15 or whatever it was at the time.
Are you talking about the little 7x11 little magazines that they used to sell like all the cars in?
Yeah, you get them at the convenience store and the metal wire stand. So like that's where you would find the weirdos that were into reptiles. Like
no kidding.
So I looked in there and this guy had an ad and I found him and I bugged the crap out of him. At the time, he had access to imported female ball pythons that were gravid. And I was like, dude, that's awesome. I don't even have to breed them. I just get them when they're gravid and, set them up and, take your chances on getting getting babies from good eggs and whatever. So I bugged the crap out of him. Hey, do you have any more females gravid? Any ball pythons? And this was way before people were breeding them in captivity with regularity. This was, I'm talking about 1991, 92, 93. And so, we didn't know jack about breeding ball pythons at the time. But this guy, he had access to animals through a big local wholesaler called Strictly Reptiles. If you guys want to do some reading, you can read up on it. Like The Stolen World is an interesting book to read about it. And The Lizard King. But anyways, some interesting folks that apparently might be getting some spotlight with the new reptile Tiger King stuff that's apparently happening.
I'm seeing little teasers of this all over the place now.
But anyways, I grew up in Miami, Florida. I grew up in an area that was basically, it was the cocaine cowboys, and it was kind of the wild, wild west of the South. And at the time as a kid, I didn't know anything about it. It wasn't until I was an adult and grew up and knew about like life that, what was happening around me. But anyways, met a bunch of interesting characters. This guy, Ron St. Pierre, became a mentor to me. He was the founder of a lot of different morphs because he had access to these animals that were coming in. And he founded like the blood boas, the motley boa. He was one of the first he was one of two first producers of the albino blue tegus, along with another associate from down there named Bill. Anyways, lots of stories there.
We gotta definitely hear those stories one day. So you initially when you first got in, you started off with geckos, or did you start off with the snakes? Or just everything at once?
I had snakes at first, mostly just stuff that we caught as kids, and then like I made a purchase of like a yellow rat snake at my local reptile shop, in Natural Selections, and kind of got more into it. I had some issues with the animals because they were wild caught animals. They had internal parasites. So I met a local exotic veterinarian that I had established a nice relationship with as a client of his. And he was like, hey, I can use some help. And so I ended up doing some veterinary work as an assistant to him as a high schooler, as a kind of like a side job, or actually past high school also. So got a lot of interesting experience working with the veterinary side of animals. And since he was primarily a house call vet, we'd, go riding around Dade County to different places, and see some interesting things. We did, stuff on cougars, macaws, potbelly pigs, you name it.
That's dope. That's dope.
It's like living the life that everybody wants to live.
Well, I was the handler. I was the guy that was handling the animal, so my boss vet didn't get bitten, kicked, scratched, whatever it was. So, it was, like I said, interesting experience. And that was my kind of intro into the reptile world. When I was in high school, it was around the time when bearded dragons started kind of blowing up with their first wave of popularity. And I asked my parents, I said, hey, you know, I'm interested in getting a group of these and breeding them. My mentor, he's doing it, and, you know, he's having success, and I can just copy what he's doing, and I just need a couple $1,000.
I just need a couple $1,000.
And my parents trusted me, and they gave me the capital. I bought animals from my mentor that was already producing F1 animals, or at the time, maybe even F2 animals. I bought some stock from at the time, a well-known bearded dragon breeder here in Florida named Pete Weiss. So I got some different genetics from a couple different breeders, put a group together. And in 2 or 3 years, I had the money to pay my parents off. And I said, hey, here's your money back.
That's awesome.
And that was my first real foray in the reptile business, so to say.
No kidding.
And so at the time I was probably a high schooler. And then by the time I made my money back, I was probably just out of high school. And just out of high school, I got a job that was paying me good money. I was a bar back in a local nightclub, and I got paid in cash, and I had a lot of extra money because I was still living with my parents. So I built up a huge reptile collection.
Yeah.
And had to relocate due to life situations. Ended up moving to start a business for my family, a restaurant business, and the reptile collection basically got liquidated. After I did the restaurant business with my family for several years, I decided to get back into it. And that's kind of where I got my second wave of animals that I currently have now.
Nice. So now with the second wave, what are you primarily focusing on?
The majority of the collection is ball pythons, but I also work with some Central American boas, Australian water pythons, green tree pythons, and I think that's about it. I have a couple of miscellaneous odds and ends around, but that's primarily it.
Yeah. Do you find yourself missing the bearded dragon sometimes?
No.
I felt that. It came from the heart. I felt that. Why is that? If you don't mind me asking, is it because of like it's just the care is more like you got to take care of them a little bit more than you got to do with snakes?
So as I mentioned, around that time I was working for a veterinarian, and he would basically sometimes work off. Basically compensate work that I'd done for him with veterinary work for me. And with the bearded dragons, there were a lot of medical issues that we went through at the time. And so they were just very problematic. Coccidia was the big issue. I remember we were giving the bearded dragons Albon, and come to find out years later, there's issues with yellow fungus disease because this medication basically kills their gut flora. And and like all of this stuff, I was in I would say I was in the second wave of popularity with bearded dragons. At the time, there were no real morphs. There was no like Whitblits and Zeros and Leatherbacks, and there was none of that. Like it was high reds, from like Bob Mayu over at Sunfire, I think it was, but there were no real morphs. And we were learning along the way, and I had so many issues with medical conditions and whatever that I was just like, they're too problematic.
I feel you on that. I feel that. I can see why you wouldn't do that. Yeah. I've never heard of like the stuff that you just said with the gut flora and all that stuff. I've never heard of that before. So that's new to me.
Well, I mean, it happens with humans too. When you're taking antibiotics or certain medications, it'll kill the gut flora. Your body takes time to recuperate and whatever. And so anyways.
It's like the natural acids inside your stomach.
No. So it basically, whether it's pH difference or just the medication itself, I don't know enough about it, but you know, certain medications are known to hurt the natural gut flora, whether it's a human or a bearded dragon. And so, you know, sometimes, you know, people take probiotics, or they'll eat yogurt or certain things, like, for example, pickles, or I think like kimchi, or stuff that's, you know, been pickled is supposed to help with, you know, with that sort of stuff. But anyways, like I said, I don't know too much about it, but certain things that are good for your gut flora to help rebuild it if you've been taking medications. But at the time, I didn't know anything. I'm just like, my bearded dragons have parasites. I need to treat them. And apparently yellow fungus disease is potentially a result of all that gut flora imbalance. And like, so I had issues with that, and it was just very problematic.
I got you. Makes sense. That's crazy. So when coming into the whole ball python situation now, since that's the majority of the collection now, so let's get into the meat of the the meal. Pause. How did you get? So what made you decide to maternally incubate? Did you not never want to incubate with an incubator, like to control it, or is it more so you just say let nature do its thing?
So initially, I started off like most people and use artificial incubation. And at the time, I had a very small group of albinos. I dropped a bunch of money on a group of albinos, and I had like 1.4, 1.5, something like that. And so I had a very small collection. And this was, like I said, many years. This was probably 2006 that I got a group of baby albinos from Greg Graziani, the Pastel King here in Florida. If you guys know, you know, he basically established the pastel morph way back in the day. So I got a group of 1.4, 1.5 albinos from him. At the time, it was, I can't remember if 2006 it was the Orlando National Reptile Breeders Expo or the Daytona, but the show originally started in Orlando back at the Twin Towers back in the 90s. And, you know, I used to go every year, and then it switched up to Daytona. And so anyways, ended up going to this National Reptile Breeders Expo, dropping a bunch of money on a group of albinos, raised them up. And so I think that was 2006. And then I think 2009 was when I first started producing my own ball pythons from that group. I had a little wine cooler that was converted into an incubator, like a lot of the, you know, guys and gals out there that are starting out, you know, kind of building from the ground up. And I had my own little DIY homemade incubator out of a wine cooler, and I ran out of space. And I had one clutch that wouldn't fit.
Oh, wow.
These albino females. So I was like, screw it. Leave it with it. Leave the clutch with her. See what happens. I had her in a 41 quart Sterilite, the brand Sterilite 41 quart in a rack system. And I just made a spray around her, not directly on her, on the eggs, just, you know, around her, keep up the humidity, boost up the humidity. And I ended up hatching out some babies from that. It wasn't 100% hatch rate. I did have some that didn't hatch out, or they maybe were stillborn, or, you know, full term dead in egg. I don't remember. It's been a long time, but I had some success. So I knew it could be done. And
did you feed her while she was on eggs though?
I don't remember. That's a good question, but we can bring that up later. That was probably 2010.
Gotcha.
So
I wouldn't remember either.
It's been a few years. So anyways, fast forward to post-COVID bubble burst in the market, and Nobody's knocking on my door trying to like buy every single ball python that I have that they can, pry out of my hands. And the bubble burst. Shit hit the fan, pardon my French.
Oh, no, you good.
And I'm like, I've done it before. And since that first time, I've done it a few other times. I was like, I know I've done it before. I know it can be done. If I end up losing a bunch of eggs and not having good success, I don't need more ball pythons to sell. I have so many already. I'm stocked up with inventory up to my gills practically. And I'm like, if I don't have great success, screw it. Who cares? So I was like, let me throw caution to the wind. This was 2023. Like I said, just after the kind of bubble burst and everybody's free government money ran out.
The bottom dropped out on everything.
And in 2023, I did it for the first time with all of my ball python clutches. Everyone that the female would sit on, I left them with her. There were maybe one or two where the female left them for some reason, but 90%, maybe 85% of the females stayed with the clutches. And this was probably about 18 clutches in 2023. So I then, I was at the time located down in Wellington, down in West Palm Beach. And then at the end of 2023, I'm relocated up near Bryan with Heathen Hatchery. I'm up in the Ocala area now.
Horse capital of the world.
Yes. And coincidentally enough, the place where I was before in Wellington is another very popular place for equestrian stuff, mostly polo. Okay. But anyways, moved up here, was expecting, I just relocated. I just moved a bunch of snakes from one location to other. Probably not going to have a bunch of clutches. I ended up producing about the same number in 2024. In fact, I think I maybe even produced one additional clutch. So I think I maybe had 19 clutches, but we'll see the data here shortly. And in both those 2 years, 2023 and 2024, I let as many females as possible stay with their eggs and just do it kind of maternal incubation. And the reason I use the air quotes is because some people are going to say ball pythons don't shiver. Ball pythons are not producing their own body energy by shivering, which if you understand with other ball python species, whether it's a Burmese python, an Indian python, a green tree python, they actually twitch while they sit on eggs to produce their own body energy, body heat through that energy. And that helps them maintain the temperature, the proper temperature. The other purpose of wrapping them up is to reduce desiccation so they don't dry out. So they're wrapping them up so that they stay moist and they're not getting dried out or desiccated. And some other python species are shivering to produce body heat. Ball pythons don't shiver. So some people will say, well, that's not, maternal incubation or whatever. And so you can call it what it is, but ball pythons do not shiver when they're on eggs to produce their own body heat, unlike some other python species. So anyways, I decided, let it happen, see what happens. I compiled some data for 2024. I did not get an opportunity to enter in the same data for 2023 for the 2 years. So I only have the most recent year's worth of data. But I've compiled some data just to show people, because over the years of doing this and sharing it on social media, I get a lot of questions like, well, how successful are you? Or, are your females really mean while they're on eggs? Do they try and take your face off? Or do your females eat while they're on eggs, like Banna asked? And so over the years of doing this, I've had a bunch of questions. So I figured Brian's invitation was a perfect opportunity to put this into a spreadsheet, have some data that I can share with the people that are interested in this subject. I'm going to share some of this information on the podcast, but afterwards, if anybody wants this information, I'm happy to send you this spreadsheet if anybody wants to send me their data, hey, I do artificial incubation. Here are my numbers to compare. I'm happy to hear what other people's numbers are. But I'm almost willing to bet that the vast majority of people are not keeping that data. And it's just anecdotal evidence that they're saying, oh, I have great success. All right, show me the numbers. Show me the data. How many people do you know that are keeping that data?
I have it all written down in my little black notebook of every snake that I've ever bred that's given me eggs and what happened with them afterwards and what they produced.
I'm sure that's the 40 and up club. Everyone in the 40 and up club probably has all their data.
So, for example, with Brian, if you wanted to crunch numbers and use this spreadsheet as a template, you can erase all my data, plug in your data, and then it shows you the percentage hatch rate of success.
Yeah.
And that's basically what I had to do is I had to take all that raw data from my paper records, put it into a spreadsheet so I can crunch numbers and show people, okay, here's some percentages, here's some statistics.
So let's go back to like kind of like the beginning of this when she lays the eggs, right? What happens when she kicks an egg out?
I was about to ask that good question.
What is that something that you would incubate yourself, or would you try to give it back to the mom in some way, shape, or form?
So if it's a slug, meaning that it's an infertile egg, and it's obviously not a fertile egg and it's a slug, when I have an opportunity, I'll usually just remove it, even though there's no real consequence of leaving it. The reason that I want to remove it is because I don't want her to take it up again in her clutch, which does happen. So when it's a good egg, or when it's outwardly appearing that it's a good egg, just visibly, I will usually leave it there for at least a couple days. And sometimes I don't have any statistics, but sometimes she'll take it back and sometimes she won't. If she doesn't take it after a couple days or after a few days, I'll take it and I'll put it into I basically have a V18 tub that, I'll use as an incubator tub that's in a rack system. When I relocated at the end of 2023, I sold my incubator to a local friend of mine. And so I actually don't even have an incubator these days. So I just use a tub in a sea serpent's PVC rack. Like you can kind of see some plastic racks behind me from my reptile room. And basically I don't put any air holes in the tub, and I'll use a moist cocoa substrate like cocoa chips. And basically put them right over the heat tape, which is at the back. There's like a 4-inch or 3.5-inch wide flex watt heat tape that's routed out of the bottom, and I'll basically just put it right over the heat.
I think I've seen one of your pictures where you did that. I think.
Yep.
Okay.
Where it's just eggs laying on the cocoa.
Yes.
So is that included into your data in terms of the clutch? Okay.
Yep. So if you guys want to see some data, some of the spreadsheet that I put together, I'll be happy to show you. And then after that, I can show you some pictures, and I'll be happy to answer any questions along the way.
Just so it's clear, ball pythons aren't the only species you've done this with, right?
Correct. The only other species that I've tried this with are green tree pythons. And I don't produce a lot of green tree pythons because I have a relatively small collection, but I've tried it and I've had some success with it. I think I've hatched either 2 or 3 clutches using this maternal incubation with green tree pythons.
Awesome.
That's what's up.
Yeah, you can pull up the chart. Let's get into it.
I would say before you get to the chart, what does the setup for maternal incubation look like compared to the setup for a incubator?
Okay, so I was talking about cocoa chips for 2023. mostly I use cocoa chips for a substrate. And you'll sometimes see people that are instead of using like a substrate-less tub, an egg tub, like for artificial incubation, sometimes they'll actually use cocoa chips. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but there's some people that actually use cocoa chips as a substrate for incubating artificially in a regular incubator. But 2023, I think I mostly did cocoa chips for a substrate. 2024, I kind of got caught with my pants down with a lot of clutches, and it primarily had to do with my relocation and trying to readjust and get settled, dealing with, working full time and a large collection and stuff. And so in 2024, I had a lot of females that I left on a newspaper substrate. So a tub is basically like what you would see behind me in these plastic racks here. These are V70s. And typically you would have like ventilation holes, whether you drill them or solder iron them. And with females, once I knew that they were going to be having eggs, they had already ovulated and they were expecting, I would basically use some painter's tape to cover up these holes. And the only ventilation that the tub would have would be between the top of the tub and the ceiling of the plastic. So they had a little bit of space for ventilation, but I closed off all of the holes along the sides, back, front, anywhere that there were holes. And in some cases, I would spray or add water to the cocoa chips, substrate, or newspaper to boost up humidity. Now, I would typically do that away from the eggs on the other side of the tub, which would typically be the cold side of the tub. 90-something% of the time, the female lays the eggs right over the heat tape, sitting right on the hot spot. And because of this process and me knowing, that higher temperatures are more dangerous than lower temperatures, I adjusted my thermostats so that they were on the lower end of the threshold for what the ball pythons want. So, a female that's sitting on her eggs, I'm not going to get a temperature spike way over the threshold of what they are capable of withstanding. And my thought process was that with my experience with other species and with other pythons, is that the eggs just take a little bit longer to hatch. Instead of being at, day 59 or 58 or whatever, it may be day 63, day 65, whatever it is. Some of the times it's right at the same time as if you were to do artificial. Sometimes it's a little longer. It just varied, but I would adjust my thermostat so that I had some cushion, some buffer, so the temperatures don't spike, and I end up having, kinked babies, dead babies, eye deformities, all the stuff that goes along with high temperatures.
Right.
Low temperatures, it just takes a little longer.
Did you I didn't mean to cut you off. Did you find the babies to be like bigger in size? Because it was like cooking up? No? Okay. I was just curious.
No, in fact, sometimes they would be a little bit smaller because in some cases, maybe I wasn't able to maintain the humidity as high. And in some of those cases, the babies seem to be a little bit smaller. Now, I don't have any data to back that up. The eggs that stayed very well hydrated and, were nice and round, they produce similar sized babies.
Okay.
Now, like I said, I don't have the data to back that up, and maybe I need to. I don't know.
Definitely wait to the baby.
What was the temperature for the low end?
86.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that ain't bad. 86.
Then now that's what it was set at, or that's what it translated to?
That's what I would have it set at, and also try and get the actual temperature at. You're always going to have some difference between the actual temperature and the thermostat settings.
Yeah.
But my thought process is that 91-ish is probably the cutoff of what I would feel comfortable with temperatures. And if I've got a buffer there and they bump up to 88 to 90, you know, for whatever reason, maybe, you know, I opened the tub where the probe was at. So the probe got a little cooler, and then, you know, you put the tub back, and then, you know, it's got to push up the temperature to get the temperature of the probe hot. Anyways, like, you have some things that happen. You know, over the years, I've seen it too many times where people hatch out deformed babies, and it's stuff that unfortunately is a lot of times preventable because of, you know, with temperature.
Right.
So anyways, were there any other questions, or would you guys like to see a spreadsheet?
I got 100 of them, but we can go to the spreadsheet.
Oh, okay.
This is mostly questions on like technique and stuff like that to be successful doing it. And it'd be like, besides the temperature, and when you do the humidity, you say you spray away from the eggs, right? What is your ambient temperature based around?
So in 2023, I was down in West Palm Beach, and the ambient air temperatures in my snake room at the time were probably in the 70s and 80s.
Okay.
And in 2024, the ambient air temperatures were probably similar, but they probably got a fair amount cooler, colder than when I was in West Palm, because I moved north in latitude.
Right.
So it probably got a bit colder in 2024, but I couldn't give you some specific numbers.
So I want to go back to the shiver part and how ball pythons don't do that. I was under the assumption that they did. So are they just relying on our temperatures alone pretty much to get the job done?
Well, in the wild, they're relying on either a rodent burrow or a termite mound.
Right.
And, you know, they're either going underground where their temperatures are going to be buffered and insulated. So at the hottest part of the day, if they're in a rodent burrow or if they're in a termite mound, they're going to be a little cooler than at the hottest time of the day if you're sitting outside in the sun.
Right.
And conversely, in the middle of the night, during the coldest part of the night, they're going to be a little bit warmer. And so their spots where they're going to typically lay their eggs are insulated from the outside temperatures. Does that help answer your question?
Yes. Yeah.
So they're not relying on their own body temperature of shivering to regulate.
Yeah.
It's just out there in nature. They got to find the right spot to make a nest.
So right. So in captivity, they're relying on us to provide that.
Yes.
Thermocline, I guess you could say. I learned the word yesterday.
Hey.
Sophistication.
Hey, I like that.
That's interesting.
So are they aggressive at all? Like, can you go in there without them like looking at you like your food?
Yeah, for the most part, the females that I've done this with, they get used to you opening the tub and looking at them and seeing them, taking a picture of them, a video, you know, whatever. Part of this whole thing is that, you know, people like to see it on social media. And so it helps to kind of, you know, gain views or, you know, get interest. When I first started doing it in that 2023 season, I had an Instagram video that just went viral. It went, you know, crazy, international, and like a bunch of people started making like negative comments, like, you know, you shouldn't be breeding animals like this and stuff like that. And like they took down my video or whatever. It had like, you know, tens of thousands of comments and views or whatever. Like I don't remember, but so part of the thing of doing this. Part of the equation is that I know that it gains interest. People like to see it. It's cool. I mean, I like to see it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's not even something people even really talk about.
Yeah,
not really.
Yeah, and
I mean, I wouldn't say it's taboo. It's just, it's like we were talking earlier, you know, maybe people just don't want to try to take that chance of nature. Maybe they'd rather have full control in the incubator.
Yeah. So
you know what I mean? Like, still can lose.
So the main lose either way. The main reasons that people don't do it is, number one, they think that it's harder to control the humidity and temperature, you know, control things. That's number one. You know, number two, they're like, hey, this is a valuable clutch. I don't want to take the chance on it. You know, they've never done it before. The big one that I hear all the time is, I want that female to get back on food. It's been X number of weeks since she's had a meal. She looks like this. She's empty. Her belly is all emptied out. She looks like she could just pass away at any second. And I want to get her back on food right away.
Yeah.
You can be ready for next year.
I get all of those things and all of those reasons for not wanting to try maternal incubation. And I'm not the guy that's trying to push this on anybody. I don't care if anybody tries this or doesn't. Like, it's just something I wanted to try and do. I don't push this on anybody and say, this is something you should do or you should try. But because I share it on social media, some of my people have tried it just because they were like, screw it, I want to try it.
Yeah. So if you try it from seeing this episode, if you try it from seeing this episode and you fuck it up, in other words, don't come crying to us.
That's my disclaimer. Actually, maybe it'll be better if I start sharing some photos first. You guys want to see some pictures?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. So I'm going to try and share my screen. Let's see if this works. You have to give me a moment here.
No problem.
I wasn't know how to do that. So
you guys have some elevator music. All right. Can you guys see my screen now?
Yep.
Okay. So this is a clutch of 2024. These are most recent pictures going backwards. These are some banana clowns and clowns. Showing this picture before. I don't know. Can you guys see this big enough? Do you need me to get this larger?
Can you hit the little green tab and see if it'll make it bigger on your end?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that better?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, this is a picture of, it looks like twins, but it's actually just a baby from the bottom that like slashed through the egg above it. So it looks like it's twins here, but it's actually just an invader, a space invader.
He was lonely.
Yeah, this is a champagne female.
Oh, wow.
This one is a black pastel female.
Look, that's a fucking cute picture, man.
Yeah, that's a very nice picture.
So like I said, when I share pictures like this on social media, people are like, oh, that's cool. And I agree. This is the same clutch as a black pastel female. I think in this clutch, there were multiple all black snakes. I think they were cinnamon black pastel combos.
Oh, wow.
So I think we have to ask the question is, how did the supers turn out with the maternal incubation?
No problems, no kinking at all. They had duck bills. I don't think you can get around the duck bill issue. They had duck bills, but no kinking issues.
That poses a question.
That's interesting.
Oh, so
how long do you wait to take out the babies?
All right, so typically the adult female will go through a shed cycle around the same time that the babies do. And they kind of sync up. And so the babies are going to go through their first shed cycle the same way if you were to separate them into tubs. You know, a week, 10 days later after they hatch, they're going to have their first shed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing happens when you leave them with the female. And the female is typically having her shed at the same time as the babies.
Wow.
No kidding.
Now, it's going to be give or take a couple days. It's not going to be all the babies have a shed the exact same time, you know.
Right.
Same way as all the babies don't hatch at the same time. The babies hatch over a couple days. So the interesting thing that I've found is that the females will typically go through their shed cycle after they hatch out at around the same time as the babies.
Wow.
I wonder if it's the same case like when let's say if you don't have them in there, right? How we're doing it now. I've never really sat there and realized if my female the mom sheds after the baby. I'm gonna have to check that out this year.
So something that we'll get into a little bit later on with the pictures is that my females typically eat on eggs. They'll eat while they're on eggs, and most of the time they retain their waist until the babies hatch, and they kind of sync up. Once the babies hatch, they'll kind of move off the eggs, exercise a little bit, and have a bowel movement. Wow. But typically, while they're sitting on the eggs, they don't have a bowel movement. And so because of that, I limit the amount of food that I give them because I don't want them to be like super uncomfortable. But I'll show you some more pictures. But these are a couple more of those all black snakes, but instead of all black, they're either banana or coral glow. I can't remember which.
So those are coral glow super black pastels?
No, cinnamon black pastel.
Oh, okay.
Coral glow cinnamon black. That's different.
Damn.
Man, that thing. Wow.
Yeah, that was part of the same clutch. And then you see a couple of the non-banana or non-coral glows here.
That's crazy.
But yeah, you'll see down here, these are a couple banana or coral glow, whichever I can't remember.
That's interesting as hell, though. Like you went from all black to a whole different, all coral glow colored snake. Like, or whatever.
I didn't think banana would be. I've never seen.
Yeah, I didn't think you could do that though.
Yeah,
but you know what? Now that I think about it, I had a super cinnamon banana, and he was like brown. So that makes sense now that I think about it.
Now these change over time. These banana or coral glow, black pastel cinnamon combos, but those are them like right out of the egg before their first shed.
Oh wow!
So yeah, here's another clutch.
That's crazy, bro.
You can see the cocoa substrate.
Did you find that your cocoa, it didn't have no mold issues, anything like that throughout the process?
Not really. Typically, in my experience, when you have mold issues, it's because there's body waste that's growing stuff. And these females are typically not excreting waste. But yeah, here's some more babies.
So with that, do you put them in a fresh? So before they lay, do you put them in a fresh tub? Okay.
Yes. If I'm doing it like with forethought and I've got the time to do it, like I'll set up a new tub with brand new substrate.
Okay.
Now you'll see some pictures later on with some females on newspaper that, like I said, I kind of got caught with my pants down.
Oh, that's not an egg.
This is an example of a female that's eating that she's got a small to weanling size rat. And when I'm feeding these adult females, I'm not giving them their regular size meal. I'm giving them a step down from what they would normally eat. So if they normally eat a medium, I give them a small. If they normally eat a small, I give them a weanling and I step it down. The thing that I'm concerned about is the rat scratching the eggs and puncturing the eggs.
Oh.
And I want the female to have very good control of that rat. So I give it a little bit step down size in rat.
You don't be scared that she's going to squeeze the eggs?
Handle that rat real quick.
She'll squeeze the eggs enough to hold them, but she doesn't squeeze enough to burst them.
It never like puts them out of sorts or nothing like that either?
If they're loose, it can. But if they're glued together, like in this picture, the eggs just typically stay in the same formation.
No kidding.
Wow.
That's interesting.
This is another example. This is a super stripe, I think.
That's cool.
It's almost like we interfere maybe too much.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I'm gonna try. I got
now I got new shit to think about.
So this is one you can see at the bottom here. This is actually on newspaper. This is a big clown female. And this is one that I didn't even use Coco's substrate. But if you were to try it on your own, I highly recommend setting up a nice tub with Coco substrate instead of leaving them on newspaper like I did.
Yeah.
So how long after ovulation do you switch it over? Do you normally have like a time frame, or is that part's the same?
No, just whenever. I don't have any sort of set schedule. Here's one where you can see a slug in the middle of the clutch that obviously wasn't ever going to hatch, but it was in the middle of the clutch, so she stayed with it and
crazy.
Didn't hurt anything.
Aggressive afterwards, like when you're trying to go in and get the babies.
No, the moms are typically pretty chill. You know, they're used to me opening the tub and checking on things, and like they're kind of somewhat used to humans. And as long as I move slowly and methodically, I'm not making fast movements around them. Like I'm not trying to get bit. If I make slow, methodical movements around them, they are definitely interested in what I'm doing and will definitely come over and check me out and like inspect, who's this intruder, but they're not super defensive.
What about the babies?
Same thing as usual. Some of them are going to be little pistols and some of them are going to be, balling up into the, typical ball python. It just depends. It varies. This is that same super stripe that was eating a rat. You can see there's an egg here that probably went bad. And you can see this was probably like a boob egg here. The one with the white head sticking out.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a cool picture. You got a handful of baby heads sticking out of the clutch and mom wrapped around them. Like that's a cool picture.
Yeah, that makes you want to maternally incubate.
I'm trying it, bro. I'm definitely gonna try it.
So this is an example of a female that did not wrap around her eggs and she just scattered them.
She didn't wrap around nothing
at all.
Like, fuck them kids.
Well, you know what? Actually, this one, now that I'm looking at the bottom egg on the right, this is a clutch that's hatching. I'm sorry. So instead of like just being calm and staying with the babies until they all hatch out, for whatever reason, she just decided to scatter them all over. And I think she was done. She checked out.
She's like, oh, these things are starting to fucking move now. I'm done.
It feels weird.
Something's like I've been sitting on these things for the last 7 weeks or whatever.
But so
here's a green tree python. With the green tree pythons, I use a nest box with sphagnum moss. It's just a wooden box. And I typically reuse the same boxes and don't clean them out. So they have the smell of eggs and babies from the previous clutches.
Gotcha.
And I feel like that helps to entice the females into laying inside of the box instead of just scattering the eggs all over the cage or in the water dish or, whatever.
That's wild, man.
Wherever they decide to go down from the perch and put them.
Exactly. So yeah, here's another one where you can see a bad egg on the right-hand side. Like I don't try and remove those. Like I just leave it be and, pretty much no harm, no foul. It doesn't hurt the eggs that are right next to them. You can see all the 3 eggs that are adjacent to that bad egg. All of them have slash marks that are from the babies naturally pipping. I don't cut the eggs. I don't artificially cut them with scissors, razors, nothing. All the babies hatch all on their own. The only time I cut an egg open is if it's been several days after the rest of the clutch hatched. And whenever I do that, I fully expect to find a dead baby inside.
So you like really letting nature take its course.
Yep. And you'll see with the data how that plays out.
Okay.
Here's a nice female double head albino pied.
It's clean looking.
Yeah, I think she might be an orange dream, but I held back a bunch of similar looking animals over the years because they just looked so nice. And then ended up producing albino pieds, albinos het pieds, and pieds het albinos.
So when you get in there and like go back to the last picture, and you open the tub and the substrate's moved away from the snake like that, do you like move it back towards the snake, or do you just leave it like that because she pushed it away?
She pushed it away before she even laid the clutch. Okay. She clears a spot to nest before she actually lays the eggs.
Gotcha.
And you'll see some pictures later on that this clear, semi-clear tub is advantageous because you can actually see the eggs from the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
This is another double head albino pied.
It's a nice double head.
That is so. It's just amazing.
This is a Candino black pastel Woma. Those are some black pastel.
Look at them babies.
Either Candy or Candino. Okay, so here you can see from the bottom, I can check out the clutch. Unfortunately, this one had like 3 slugs and then 1 boob egg. But, you know, things happen.
2 eggs.
This is a Woma, an Enchi Woma head clown. You can see some clown heads popping out.
Oh, yeah.
That's a banana clown there.
That's nice.
Some more double head albino pieds. Another cinnamon, champagne. Oh, some of these might be duplicates. Okay, I reached the end of that group. And then this is an example of when I had newspaper. You can see this one actually rolled over. It was originally made on this side, and the newspaper stuck to it.
Reading material.
Yeah.
That's one smart snake right there. That dude had something to read in there.
Let's see. Maybe I'll go. Oh, these are duplicates. Hold on. Got to kind of find my way here.
I think that's the same scroll. It's just it almost makes you think that, you know, like maybe we interfere too much, man.
We might.
Like I said, I'm not trying to push this on anybody. I think, you know, it's just kind of interesting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's just bringing up the same pictures over and over again, but that's fine. So I'll put up a spreadsheet here that'll probably be more interesting.
It's just amazing to me that I don't know. I want to try it so bad, but you know, I get so nervous and
I'm gonna try it.
It just seems like maybe we I don't know, like don't even need to interfere if the temperatures are right.
All right, can you guys see the screen here?
Yeah.
Yep.
With the spreadsheet?
Yes.
Okay. So here on the left column A, we've got number of eggs in the clutch, the number of slugs, number hatched, and then the hatch rate percentage. Down here on row number 7, we've got the number of meals for the females while they're sitting on eggs. And then down in the notes section, just anything interesting or abnormal. For example, with this one, you know, we had 6 of them hatch, and then egg number 7 was a fully formed dead an egg. Right? Makes sense so far?
Yes.
All right. So we've got clutch number 1. We had 6 of 7 hatch of 86%. Clutch number 2, all 7 hatched, and so forth and so forth. And I'll just kind of slowly scroll through. In 2024, I had a grand total of 20 clutches and a total number of 141 eggs.
God damn.
Oh, you had one female shed during
Yeah.
incubation.
Yeah, that was unusual. So 21 of those eggs were slugs. I didn't calculate a percentage, but if you want, you can easily calculate that on your own. And then basically
That has
110.
nothing to do with maternal incubation. That just is natural selection.
Well, that may have had to do with my temperatures when I was pairing the males and females. Maybe I didn't pair them at the right time. Maybe I didn't pair them frequently enough. That's a separate issue, like you were saying. And then column 5, I've got a total of 110 hatched out of 141 eggs. And that ends up being 78% of the eggs that were laid were hatched.
That's pretty good, though.
So
Yeah.
just to talk
That's
about that
C+.
point,
That's a C+.
on the next tab here, on the next sheet, you may see here, this one I labeled it maternal incubation without slugs. So I took out the slugs. Without the slugs, there were, oh, did I do that right? Okay, I think without the slugs, it came out to 92%.
Ah.
So
I
you
see.
can,
Yeah.
you can look at the data different ways. You can kind of make your own angle or whatever, but these are the numbers based on my experience for 2024. And then, for example, with clutch number 13, I guess I had some issue. Let me look with 13.
I would think that slugs wouldn't count towards your maternal incubation, though.
Yeah,
Well,
that's what I'm saying. Like we get slugs with artificial ones. Like that's before this process.
Yeah, well, that's, you can, like I said, you can cut it however you want. I'm just showing the numbers.
Right.
So like with clutch number 13, this one, for example, I pulled the eggs for artificial incubation. So I did a different spreadsheet and I took out that one so that one wasn't a factor. And that one, instead of being 92%, now bumps it to 91%.
Gotcha.
So basically the bottom line is I tried to show different ways of looking at it. But even at 78%, when you include the slugs, I figure that's probably not a bad hatch rate. And then when you look at it without the slugs, 92%, I'd argue that that's probably equal to what most people are having with artificial incubation. But I don't have that data to compare. So if there's anybody out there that has that data or knows people that collect that data and have it, feel free to share it and we can compare and say, here's, the numbers, to compare against.
92% hatch rate's pretty good. I mean, that's really good.
I would say just from my I think I had about 6 clutches since I've been in, and I will say with artificial that I'm about 92% too. Like I had a couple that didn't, you know what I mean? Like I probably out of 30 babies, probably 25 were successful.
Yeah. So like I said, before I did this plunge in 2023 and 2024 during the post-COVID market, I mostly did artificial incubation. I had a sea serpents, a 48-inch sea serpents incubator that I used for most of my clutches. And so I kind of know that even with artificial incubation, it's not a guaranteed process. You're going to have failures. You're going to have stuff that happens. So anyways, like you'll look at the notes here for clutch number 19. This was a super stripe female. This entire clutch went bad. While she was sitting on the eggs, I didn't hatch a single baby from that clutch. In clutch number 17, I had a baby that hatched with a deformity. It had an open belly instead of having just a small umbilicus. It had a big wide open belly and it died. I'm not saying this is like a without failure process. Like it has failures with this process also. I think we talked about clutch number 13. I ended up pulling those. This was a female that it's weird for whatever reason. She actually shed and then went back on the eggs. And then here's one that I personally incubated.
When they kick an egg, do you think that's something they do on purpose? Like maybe like internally knowing that egg might not make it or might be a weak egg?
I don't think so, because
No,
I've had
either.
females kick good eggs and I've had females kick bad eggs. I don't think they're smart enough to figure it out. It's nice and convenient when they kick out a slug to say, oh, look, she knew it was a slug. She kicked it out. But I've had females kick out good eggs.
Yeah, I have too. I was just kind of like wondering maybe they knew something we didn't. That's all.
No. And, one of the other reasons I limit the amount of meals is, to make sure that they're not like super full so they can wrap up all the eggs and they're not super uncomfortable. But anyway, did you guys have any other questions?
What made you artificially incubate that one clutch?
So in some cases, it's a female that's just not staying and wrapping them. And she maybe is like kicking them or just scattering them, which is not a typical thing. It's unusual in my experience. You can see from the notations, like it only happened that I think once or twice. And the other reason that I'll do it sometimes is if it's a high number of slugs. For example, if there's only 2 viable eggs in that clutch, I'm like, I'd rather just pull those eggs. It's more of a chance that they're going to get rolled around. They're not adhered to the other eggs like a nice glued clutch. And the female is basically trying to sit on mostly eggs that are never going to hatch. So if I've got a situation like that where it's mostly slugs, I will sometimes just pull those 1 or 2 eggs and just artificially incubate and just put that female back on a regular feeding regimen and just call it a day.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It's so when I'm trying to word the question right. Here, let me get back to that. Somebody else ask a question. I got to think about how I want to word this.
So if you want, I can look through the comment section. I see that Mark had a question. He said, do you try and keep your hot side of the rack at 86? Yeah, that's my kind of like sweet spot. Sometimes you have to adjust the thermostat, a little bit higher than that to get that actual temperature. But I shoot for about 86 Fahrenheit for the hot side for my rack, Mark.
So have you tried to use the ARS rack to do the incubation?
Not yet. I've only used plastic. I find that, I can get a good seal on the ventilation. So it's got minimal ventilation and it's maintaining like really good humidity. On the front of the tub, you're going to see a bunch of condensation. I do have a female in the rack behind me. They're actually freedom breeders. I do have a female in there that just is getting ready to ovulate that I'm on the fence of, do I leave her there and try it or do I put her into a plastic rack? So I haven't tried with metal racks. I've only done this with plastic racks at this point.
I was asking the metal racks, they got the holes in the top. So you had to pull the top tub and seal all that off. And
yeah, with a tub, it's easy. You just pull it out. You put some painter's tape over the holes. You press it in there and you put the tub back and you're done.
That's interesting. So I have I got a couple racks, the PVC, and I don't have any holes in them. So I'm gonna definitely try it. I'm trying it. I'm trying. Like, what do I have to lose? I'm not worried about if I hit or if I miss. You know what I mean? Like it's more so the experience to be able to teach it more so than putting on MorphMarket and trying to make the dollar off the daggone thing. Like if it goes, it goes. If it doesn't, I try it. You know what I mean? So I'm definitely trying.
Well, that was my mentality post the boom with the COVID stuff. Like I was kind of like, I don't need to produce a bunch more ball pythons. Like, you know, if it happens, it happens. And it ended up being quite successful in my opinion. So I ended up not actually reducing my production at all, but you know, it happens.
I think the toughest part for me would be making sure I check to make sure I got the humidity up. Because in the bigger PVC tubs, I can have the condensation on the front of the tub and all of that, and then I could pull it, and then my cocoa still seems pretty dry. So how do you go about making sure that you, even with the condensation on the front, is that enough humidity, or do you still add as you go?
Yeah, so it kind of depends. If I notice that it's just mostly dried out, I'll add some water on the opposite side of the tub, which is typically going to be the cold side. Or quite frankly, sometimes when I'm doing maintenance, I'm not spraying anything. I'm just taking their water dish and tipping some of it over into the cocoa substrate, but not enough that it's going to run down the tub and touch the female or touch the egg. Just enough to kind of moisten the corners, you know, like around the edge of the cold side. But yeah, whether you spray it or you dump the water dish, you just kind of add water as needed. It's kind of like if you're taking care of a potted plant, you know, it's like, oh, the substrate is dried out. I need to add a little bit of water and hydrate it. And so it's kind of a situation where everyone's tub and room and situation is going to be slightly different. And you just kind of have to play it by ear. You know, if you see your eggs are nice and round, you're probably doing great. If you see that your eggs are desiccating and they're drying out, you need to bump up your humidity and moisture game. And so, you know, in the beginning stages of doing this, I would make sure to keep an eye on things and, you know, make sure that I'm giving them the best possible chance. And then after doing it this last year, leaving them on newspaper, I was like, these things are like just going to hatch, you know, no matter what I do.
No, that's
at what point in the process do you feel like, or do you realize that, damn, I had a question. I had a good question and I lost it.
What's your cocoa preference?
All right, I'm glad you asked. I always not going to know it.
You got to put it in front of your hoodie or something.
Okay.
There you go.
Hold on, let me see.
No, this
so Gaps is basically the people that sponsor me. They've sponsored me for many years. They've been good to me. And they do a lot of horticultural stuff, you know, like the core, and, you know, they do mats. They do plugs, you know, like they don't do just cocoa chips for the reptile market. They do a lot of stuff for the horticultural industry also. But they reached out to me many years ago asking if I wanted to partner with them. So I use Gaps, and they're affordably priced. Like if you're buying it online, you're not going to beat the price if you go to your local show and get some at your local show. You're going to get your best deal at your local show. And I recommend you do that. You have a show local to you, support your local people. But if you need to order it online, check out Gaps and check out their pricing.
Nice. So you're not a supplier, right?
No, I don't actually resell it. We tried looking down that road initially, and basically I had to buy so much volume that I was like, I'm going to be sitting on cocoa for years.
Bringing a tractor trailer down a driveway.
Yeah. And with that being said, I don't vend any shows. I used to way back in the day, but it's been many, many years since I've vended a show. So I don't have the luxury of just like, at my local next show, I'm going to bring 50 bales or, you know, 25 blocks and sell them there. Like I do the vast majority of my sales online. I do a few local, you know, with Brian that, you know, but most of my business is just done online.
I keep hearing rumors of Repticon coming to Ocala.
Oh, okay. I mean,
now they got the equestrian center.
They're everywhere else, so why not?
Yeah, right.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Is that
So
closer
when
to
you-
you?
I'm sorry.
Is Ocala closer?
So Brian and I are both in Ocala. Is it closer to what?
Yeah.
Than other shows or whatever?
Oh, there's so many Repticon shows down here in Florida. Like you just have to throw a rock and you're gonna hit one.
Yeah. Every weekend you can find one probably.
Yeah, so that's why I was being sarcastic and
Gotcha.
Eric lives in Ocala. I live in Silver Springs, the next town over.
Okay, sorry.
Gotcha.
You what's the plan? So 5 years from now, do you continue? You want to continue doing this? As far as like, no, you just winging it, taking it
I
day by
don't
day.
know. Yeah. I have some females that I'm expecting eggs from soon. I don't have any eggs that I'm actually incubating right now. But I do have a handful of females that I'm expecting eggs from soon, and I have them set up to sit on them. I don't have an artificial incubator. I sold it a couple years ago, so I guess I'm continuing down the same road.
So what type of clutches are you looking to produce?
Nothing crazy. I don't have anything like super high end, like nothing super, rare, I work with a lot of pet quality and entry breeder level quality. So if somebody's looking to try and get into breeding or somebody's just looking for a pet quality, that's kind of what I produce. Ball pythons in like the $100 to $500 neighborhood. That's mostly what I produce. There's kind of, a pyramid shape with sales. The higher the dollar value, the higher up on the pyramid it goes. And the fewer number of customers that are going to be able to afford that snake are going to even want that snake. So the higher the dollar value, the fewer number of potential customers that are out there. And I try and be kind of in the middle of that pyramid. I don't want to be on the very low end where I'm only producing wholesale ball pythons like normals. But in the middle of that, you have a decent customer base where, people are willing to spend a couple $100 on a pet because they want a ball python, or they're trying to get into breeding and they're willing to spend, a few $100. But I don't produce much that's over like $1,000. Most of it is in that $100 to $500 neighborhood.
So you in the pretty snake area.
Yeah. And, you can call them fancies. You can call them pet quality. You can call them whatever. I've always been very conscious about finances when I grew up my collection for the second time. And when I did things the first time, I was kind of haphazard and had things kind of scattered and had a bunch of different things and a bunch of different species. And I told myself when I got back into it, I was going to focus more and I was going to keep track of my finances and operate it more like a business rather than just a hobby. So, for example, I keep a profit and loss statement, a P&L spreadsheet where every expenditure, every dollar that goes out, it's accounted for. Every dollar that comes in, it's accounted for. And what do I end up at the end of the year? And over the last, several years, I'm always on the positive side. I'm always cash flow positive. I don't have years where I'm losing money. Even during the worst of the downturn of the COVID, after the bubble burst, I was still making money, just not as much as I wanted to. And I've always just been very conscious about finances. So instead of just being like, oh, I'm going to blow the budget. No, it's got to make sense. Like if I'm going to buy an animal, got to work into a program, a project that I've got, plans with, and I've got to make that initial investment pay off down the road in a couple years, even accounting for the downturn with morphs. With morphs, they're always going to decrease in value until they plateau and, when they're the hottest new thing, the prices are high, but by the time you start producing them 2 years down the road or whatever it is, the price has dropped and you have to account for that. instead of having this idea in mind. Oh, I bought this snake for $1,000. When I start producing them in 2 years, I'm going to produce babies that are worth the same amount. Like, you may not. It depends on what you pair them with, and you have to kind of factor that in. And so I've always been just very financially conscious about, I'm doing this to make money, and I may not have the nicest collection, the coolest animals, the rarest ball pythons, but I make money every year.
You know what else you got? 242 reviews on MorphMarket, so you're doing something right.
So that's another big thing of doing online sales. You know, back when I was trying to do sales at shows, I'm not poo-pooing on anybody that does shows. I think they're a cool part of our hobby. I'm not trying to, you know, poop on anybody's parade. But when I was doing them, I was not making money. The money that I was putting into doing the show, including my time for packing animals, unpacking animals, my 2 days or that one day where I'm basically stuck at that show, I wasn't making the money I needed to. And it was basically like, well, what am I doing here? I can do sales online and build my reputation with hundreds and dozens of reviews. And like, I'm not even a founding member on MorphMarket. I didn't get on MorphMarket till they started charging money. They had free accounts for years and years. And I was just like, that's cool. I'm aware of it. I checked it out. I didn't actually buy an account until they started charging money. And I was like, it's going to weed out all the riffraff. Instead of having everybody and their uncle that's got the free accounts and all the riffraff, the low end, now people have to pay for it. It raises the bar I'm in.
Yeah.
And you just do the right things. You take care of people the way they're supposed to. I have one negative review on MorphMarket. And to that person who made a negative review, I don't like you.
Because you got it wrong, bro. You got that review wrong.
The person got a snake that was sexed incorrectly, and I made a mistake. I owned up to it, and I said, I'll give you a refund minus the shipping cost. So you get a snake for just the shipping cost, or you send it back to me. He wasn't happy with it, and he made a negative review. Anyway, every other review on there is 4 to 5 stars, lots of great comments, and I basically have built my reputation online because that's where my focus was instead of doing local shows.
Right. It's a good plan because it's working.
For sure.
You know,
I'm a customer of yours, so I know your customer service is 100% legit and excellent.
It's scary online these days. There's so many scammers. There's so much to be cautious of. If people see that you're, you know, well established, you got a bunch of nice reviews. One of the things on MorphMarket, I'm not sure if you're aware, you can pin one of your comments or one of your reviews. And so one of the ones that I have pinned, or I can't remember, you can pin multiples, but one of the ones I have pinned is basically somebody that left a nice review that it was their very first online purchase. And they said, this was the very first snake I purchased. It came to me great. I was happy with it and whatever. So when other people start looking at my reviews, that's at the top.
Right.
You know,
That's
I'm not
crafty.
selling breeder quality to the people out there that are the big names out there that are looking for breeder quality.
Yeah.
But for the person that's looking for a pet that's a cool looking snake or maybe an entry level breeder, they can see, you know, they've got some confidence in purchasing from me.
So anybody that's listening are going to watch this again. Remember that little gem he just dropped, because that's a pretty good one right there. I wouldn't have even thought about that. That, like, reading a review instantly with somebody that bought their first snake online and left you an awesome review. Me, as somebody that's never bought a snake online before, would read that review and I'd be like, oh, okay.
Yeah, trust it. Yeah.
Now there's two sides of that coin, because I end up dealing with people that are maybe not as qualified, and I maybe have to hold their hand a little bit more. And I may have to say, hey, send me some pictures of your enclosure that you got planned out or that you have set up or that you want to buy. And maybe I can give you some of my, you know, feedback on what works and what doesn't work, what works the best. what you maybe want to buy for a thermostat, what you maybe want to invest in as far as an enclosure. And so some of the times I have to do a little more hand holding, and that's not for everybody.
Yeah.
It's not. It is fucking not. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah.
I am not a hand holder. I'm not good with it.
One of the things that I learned over the years, something that a friend of mine, Ian Bissell, taught me, was with S&J Reptiles. He's the one that mentored me with green tree python. One of the things that was integral in doing this type of thing and working sales properly, you have to qualify people.
Yeah.
And if I have an ad on MorphMarket, one of the other things, as well as having really good reviews and a lot of them, I want to have really high quality photos. I want to have studio quality photos. I'm not saying that all of my photos on MorphMarket right now are the best, but that's what I shoot for. So if I've got a customer that they're inquiring on an ad and there's 5 really nice high quality photos on there that are studio quality, or what I consider studio quality, and they say, can I get some more pictures? I'm not going to automatically bust out the tub and the snake and start shooting pictures. I'm going to start qualifying that person. I'm going to ask them, what do you want to see that you're not seeing in these pictures? You want me to show a different angle? Some people, maybe they want a picture of the cloaca to make sure it looks healthy. Maybe they want a close-up of the face to make sure there's no deformities. I don't know. So I put it in their court. I put the ball in their court.
It makes sense.
What else do you want to see before I bust out the studio, the camera, and so if they respond, it shows me they're really interested. If they don't respond, I didn't put any more effort into it. I just sent them a message that took me literally 1 to 2 minutes saying, hey, thanks for the inquiry, being professional, being polite. I appreciate you reaching out. What else do you want to see? I'm happy to take some pictures for you. Just let me know.
Right. I mean, I say that, but my reviews are all pretty legit about customer service, saying how nice I am and punctual.
Yep. So yeah, that sort of thing goes a long way. Once you get further down the line, you start qualifying them more. Hey, can you receive delivery at your local FedEx hub? Hey, do you have an enclosure set up? Hey, have you kept snakes before? Have you kept a ball python before? There's all sorts of qualifying questions that you can ask to save yourself headaches. And those are some real gems that I learned from my buddy Ian, because he's got that work experience with his day job. And, he's like, hey, you don't just throw everything at somebody that shows a little interest. Qualify them. How serious are they as a buyer? Don't just spend all your time and effort into chasing somebody that's never, ever going to be a customer. You're wasting your time. You're setting yourself up for disappointment. You focus on the people that are more qualified, that you can kind of vet them and see like, okay, this is a person that's more serious. Hey, this is an animal that's going to work into my breeding program. I'm interested in buying it from you. Hey, that's a great qualification versus somebody that's just like, hey, can I see more pics?
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, it does. I never thought about it like that, honestly. I just always gave into the demands, just trying to get the sale kind of deal.
So yeah, I always try and take the high road. I may lose money on a single sale. That one bad review that I had, I lost money on that. I gave the guy a refund minus his shipping cost. So whatever he paid for that snake, $100, $200, whatever it was, I lost money on that. But I would rather lose a little bit of money on a single transaction to have my reputation remain intact and do the right thing and, try and take the high road. In this particular case, it didn't work out. But there are many other examples where I screwed up. I made a mistake. And, hey, I sent you the wrong gender. You weren't happy with whatever. I'm going to make sure that customer is made whole, taken care of, so that my reputation isn't down in the gutter.
Yeah, I had that happen to me once, and he just wasn't happy with the mail I sent him. He just wasn't like the look of it or anything. And I didn't have another mail to replace it. So I offered him the dad, and he was like, "Yeah, absolutely." I was like, "Well, all right, here you go then." You know, done deal. Got a perfect review from him too.
Yeah, there's been a couple times where people bought snakes from me, and for whatever reason, they can't get them to eat.
That's more important to me though than him talking shit about me to people.
Exactly. Yeah. I had a couple instances where people bought ball pythons for me that were great eaters on my end. They did great for me. When they acquired the animals, they couldn't get them to eat.
Yeah.
I would much rather give them a full refund, get that snake back in my hands, and get it back on food, which is exactly what happened in these instances where that happened. I'll be more than happy to give them their money back.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that animal gets taken care of properly. And for whatever reason, sometimes snakes are funny that way. They get shipped somewhere to a new location and they just go off food.
Yeah,
And
they get perfect temperatures, perfect atmosphere, and sometimes they're just like, yeah, you know what, fuck this place.
yeah. But I'd much rather, like you said, Brian, is make things right in whatever particular situation so that somebody's not, bad mouthing me, saying I'm a, piece of crap selling snakes that don't eat or whatever. The one instance that I can think of, it was a higher end animal. It was over $1,000. I got the snake back the very night that I got it back. It took food for me. I took a picture, sent it to this guy. I said, "Here's a snake I just got back from you." And it's just, I'm not saying that customer did anything wrong. They had several other ball pythons. They weren't like a brand new keeper. Just some snakes are funny that way, and things happen.
Nice. Well, this has been a great interview.
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely motivated me. I'm trying it. I was getting rid of the seat. I was getting rid of the PVC rack. Everything in it is shipping out tomorrow, Thursday. All the snakes, everything. I was getting rid of all of that, but now I'm keeping it. I'm keeping it just for this. I gotta try it. If it doesn't work, oh well. I'll pair it again next year. Try it again. Like, it is what it is.
You got to put your information in the chart.
Yeah, that chart was crazy too.
I think with these metal racks, whether it's ARS or Freedom Breeder, I think you can have the ability to have a solid top, or you can just cover the top with plastic. Like if somebody wants to try with a metal rack, it's probably going to be okay. I just don't have any experience doing it, so I can't say for sure. All of my experience has been with plastic.
Yeah, I'm gonna try it.
That's interesting. Well,
I noticed when I spill the water bowl, sometimes I can get a lot of fucking humidity in those racks. But
the Freedom Breeder, the ARS.
Yeah, the ones behind me.
That's interesting. So, Brandon, what you took away from this episode? You said you was gonna do that every episode now.
So what I took away from this episode is, fuck it, let them go. If they do it in the wild, man, why can't they? Like, we can literally do everything else. We can make them eat. We can make them do it to each other. Like, we can do everything else. Why can't they do this by themselves? Like, he showed it eating food on the eggs. You know what I mean? Like, he showed everything. It's no excuse why they can't do it.
And he said it shed, and it went back to the eggs.
Man.
So one of the things that I find kind of comical when I get some pushback online when I post a picture like this on Facebook, sometimes people, for whatever reason, they're haters, and I get it. Haters are going to be out there online anywhere you go. And, some people, they hate on it. And, I'm just kind of like, these animals have been doing this on their own out in the wild for thousands of years in Africa, in rodent burrows, in termite mounds, and maybe elsewhere, maybe in tree hollows. I don't know, but those are the two main areas that they normally are laying eggs, from what I understand. And, there's some good documentaries out there. I think Dave Kaufman did one.
Yeah.
There's another one that was done several years before that. It was, I think, the OG, the original documentary. But there's a couple documentaries out there of these guys going out there in Africa, digging up females on eggs, doing some, leg work. And these animals have been doing it this way for how many years?
Yeah.
And so when people comment online about poo-pooing on it or whatever, being haters, that's not the way to do it or, whatever. And I'm just kind of like, these animals know what they're doing. It's in their DNA. This is how they do it. Like these
and
are
your
not,
data says different.
so.
Well, say, look at the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Argue with the spreadsheet.
Yep.
And another thing too, you said you don't want to get her wet or the eggs wet. I forgot where I was at, and someone was showing their egg tray, and the eggs hatched, and they were using, it was either perlite or vermiculite, and the eggs were actually touching the water, and it still hatched. And people would say, "Oh, it's gonna flood the egg, it's gonna drown it," and all that other type of stuff. And he was like, "Nah, these eggs are definitely touching the water, and they still good." So it's nature at the end of the day. Like if they in the termite mound, that it might just rain by accident or something. Water might get down there, so it might get wet. You know what I mean?
That's
so
a good point.
Yeah, everything can't just be so one way, and that's the part that I like about it, because you try it both ways, and you said, you know what, bump it. I'm gonna just rock the way that I'm gonna rock, and I love that.
And the females, I think they do have some sense of moisture or humidity or hydration. I think Brian or somebody had asked about females kicking out eggs, and if they know when an egg is bad and they kick it out. I don't think they necessarily do, but I do think they have the ability to wrap more and less of the egg mass depending on the needs. So for example, if the temperature is a little bit low or the moisture is a little bit low, they may be wrapping all the eggs so that you can't even see anything. You won't even be able to see a single egg. And then there's other times when I check on them and they're a little bit looser, and you can actually see the eggs in between the coils. And so I think they do have some ability to sense when they need to wrap the eggs tighter and when they can loosen them more. And typically what happens is as they start to pip, as the first egg starts to break the egg with its egg tooth, generally the female starts to loosen up even more and give them even more breathing space and even more space to start hatching out.
That makes sense.
Most of the time she's still, around them, but she just loosens her coils up more. And then on the rare occasion, I think I showed you a picture of one female that when the egg started pipping, she just basically she just but most of the time as they're hatching, she actually will still sit around the eggs. And then after the eggs hatch, they will also congregate around the mom or inside her coils and kind of just hang out until they have their first bed. And I think there is some protection aspect of that where, when they're going through their first shed cycle and they just hatched, they're vulnerable. And if they're hugging mom, and they will literally wrap on top of mom and hug the mom, or if they're sitting in her coils, they have some protection there.
One last question before we end this. Do they ever come out with the yolk still attached?
In my experience, I've only had it happen a couple times. With the way that I do things, most of the time they're catching out with really nice umbilical or umbilicus openings where you see the opening because they just hatched, but it's not like a big open thing. Like we don't have a big, huge belly. A lot of times you see these eggs that are cut with artificial incubation. They're cutting them and they have these huge bellies. I shouldn't say never. I rarely see that. They hatch out. Once they've absorbed some yolk, they will sit in the egg for a good 24 hours after they pip, and they will just sit in the egg. And then once they've absorbed some of that yolk and they're not, really huge bellies, they'll come out of their egg. But I see very little huge bellies. I don't see like hard bellies. They hatch out very well formed.
Nice. Oh, we think we're going to wrap things up here because we're going to get to eating.
So we appreciate you coming on, Mr. Eric Chung of Chung Reptiles. Definitely appreciate all the information that you dropped, the knowledge that you dropped, and the pictures and the charts, man. You definitely showed us some things that we have never seen before. Definitely welcome you to come on again in the future. Definitely want to, check out some more information that data that you might have in the future as far as like, whatever clutches you produce this year too. So
Just have it back on for industry stories.
Oh yeah. I also wanted to ask about the green tree, but that's cool. We'll say that for another time. But
thank you very much thank you very much for having me. I appreciate the invitation and for hosting this, and we can talk about other things, green tree pythons. I'm also a rodent breeder. I produce most of my own rodents. And, we can talk about that if there are people that are interested in rodent production and how to set it up and how to do that. I'm happy to talk about that sort of stuff too.
Cool, nice. Cool. We'll definitely set that up. That'll be real fun too. Other than that, y'all got anything y'all want to add?
Just where can everybody find you?
Yeah.
At Chung Reptiles. You can look me up on Instagram or Facebook or MorphMarket.
Cool.
Facebook and MorphMarket. Next week episode is hold on, I gotta pull up my little black book. We have Aaron number 4, Matsu Morphs.
Awesome.
Number 4.
Yeah, this
I'm
number
getting
4.
lost now.
Yeah,
excellent.
He definitely got some nice stuff over there, so that'll be a fun episode. Yeah. I think I purposely pushed him down because I was supposed to have him earlier on the show, but he wanted to make sure he had some clutches and some babies to show off around that time. So y'all make sure y'all tune in next week as well. Replay game, #replay game in the comments for me. Let me know that you are tapping in, and to let us know what y'all thought about the maternal incubation episode. And whatever questions y'all want to ask, and I'll definitely reach out and ask.
For sure.
Y'all could ask me yourself. Just follow him on Instagram, follow him on social media. Definitely ask those questions. Like you said, he welcomes it. So we'll leave no stone unturned. Other than that, before we slide, let's show off some of this merch so we can shout out some of these folks. Yeah, banner. Yeah, buddy. What you got on? Shout out to MorphMarket. If it wasn't for MorphMarket, we wouldn't be selling snakes. Shout out to Minister Society herself.
And everybody on the back.
And everybody on the back.
Everybody.
Shout out to the Wiz Tang. Brandon.
This is on that bomb squad tonight.
Yeah, there. Shout out to the bomb squad. Shout out to KG&D. They just had that reptile breeder show out in Cali. Y'all make sure y'all check out the YouTube post. A lot of people been posting about it recently, so check it out. And that's all you got.
Yeah, the working man outfit.
You got on that working man sweater. All right.
Representing my home state.
Representing up top. Is there?
Yeah.
Shout out to the Pip Set. How you get a pink shirt? Damn, they made you a pink shirt specifically for you, huh?
Yeah, bro. I'm in the game, my guy.
That's what's up. Shout out to the circle.
I'm connected.
And then Eric, you got on anybody's shirt or you just regular today? You just regular? Shout out to the Thrashers.
Excellent.
I grew up as a little skate rack punk kid.
Nice.
Shout out to the Bond Squad, man. One time for the one time. And shout out to Dambala. And I don't think he ain't slacking on the back. So, deserve. Appreciate y'all, man, for tapping in with us. This has been another fun episode of Off the Plank. We'll see y'all next week. Same time, same place. Be there or be square and don't be lame. And till next time, we like you. We did.